In the film Demolition Man, which we are watching today, there is reference to a franchise war in which Taco Bell comes out the victor. I would like to know, Angelica, what are your fast food, favorites and least favorites?
I will start by saying I think I've had Taco Bell fewer than 5 times in my life.
What?
Yeah, it's weird. My husband says that when I always remind him, he's like, "What? We should go to Taco Bell." I don't think I've ever had Taco Bell with him, by the way, and we live a few blocks from a Taco Bell. There was not a lot of fast food near me when I was old enough to like go out and get fast food on my own. I grew up in a house where my mom was like, "No fast food."
Mm-hmm.
She's from Greece. She's has a really healthy diet and tortured us with her overly healthy diet as kids. So like McDonald's once in a while, we got McDonald's as kids and that was special. And I don't even remember knowing what Taco Bell was in the 80s. And then when I went to college, I lived in the Back Bay of Boston and there were no fast food restaurants anywhere close by, which sucked because that's all you can afford. And then I just never got Taco Bell for some reason. And I think the only times that I've had it, I was like covering hurricanes on the Carolina coast, and that was the only thing open. I think it was good. And I don't know why I don't go there. Maybe it's just because it's not a habit for me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm watching this movie thinking I need to eat Taco Bell more. But I maybe this is controversial, but I like McDonald's. I think McDonald's is delicious. I know it's not healthy. It bothers me when people are so like snobby about fast food and McDonald's in particular. I'm like, there's a reason McDonald's is McDonald's because this stuff tastes really good. These fries are excellent. I do not like In and Out. I've only had it twice and I thought it was a little bit overrated. I admit that I probably need to have it more to decide. I think Burgerville has gone downhill since I've moved here, and I don't know if I'm just turned off by the prices. It's
Mm-hmm.
really expensive. I would never eat Burger King. It's garbage. I like Wendy's. I like their fries. I would have to say my favorite is McDonald's, though.
That is an extremely basic opinion, but you're entitled to have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I
What
think
about you?
McDonald's cheeseburgers, little cheeseburgers, and French fries are like a god tier fast food meal, but most
That's
of
what
the
I
rest.
get. I get the 2 cheeseburgers meal.
Yeah.
I like the simplicity of it and that you can eat 2 of them and not, just explode. And the hot fries with a lot of salt.
That is a very satisfying meal, but I would say the rest of their menu is pretty garbage.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love Taco Bell. It's not Mexican food at all. It is
Right.
Taco Bell. It is its own
Yeah.
weird little entity. Wendy's I can definitely go for. Good burgers, good fries. I agree that In-N-Out is wildly overrated. If you're gonna eat that kind of fast food where it's like a little higher end, Shake Shack is infinitely better. Um,
I had Shake Shack for the first time a couple months ago. I think I don't like smash burgers.
mm,
I think I need that more juicy burger kind of because I've had a lot of smash burgers around town and they're all good, but I just don't think it's my thing.
well, go next time you're in the Midwest or South. There is a chain of smash burgers uh called no, it's right over my head. I'll think of it. If you've had a really good one, then you'll know. I'm so annoyed with myself. I had it once in Wichita, Kansas, and it was incredible, and it's all over the place. I'll think of it. Anyway, I think wildly underrated fast food is Arby's.
Oh, this is so funny you say that. 2 days ago, Bill told me he secretly goes to Arby's up the street a lot by himself. Sometimes he sits in the restaurant. And I said, why? And he goes, because none of you guys like Arby's, and it's one of my favorite things. And he has this fantasy Arby's story that he tells everyone. He was on this quest on the East Coast to get Arby's as he was driving all the way up. It was like a 10-hour drive when we lived out there. And there was a sign that said Arby's next exit, and he couldn't find it. And he went 45 minutes out of his way looking for this Arby's. And he was so angry. And when he finally found it, he said it was like the heavens shine down. It was this massive Arby's. This is about 20 years ago that looked like it looked like a mall itself. And he walked in and he said, "What is this place?" And they had table service and huge TVs everywhere. And they said, "This is the biggest Arby's in the world." And they explained to him that he was like at the mecca of Arby's. And he tells people about this like it was one of the best dining experiences of his life. And he is constantly preaching the Arby's menu.
That is incredible.
What do you get there?
A roast beef sandwich, curly fries, soda. I mean, nothing crazy. They have like the best sauces in fast food. I'm really excited because Arby's sauce, their like barbecue sauce, is now available in bottles at the grocery store, and I eat it all the time at home.
That's funny. So they're going the way of Panera and selling their stuff in the grocery store.
Yeah, it's smart. So yeah, and I think In-N-Out, back to that real quick. The burgers are just fine. The fries are the worst fast food fries possible.
They're awful. They remind me of Burger King fries in their shittiness.
Burger King at least tries. Like they
Burger King has the like little warts on the outside. I'm not a fan of that.
But they're trying to make good fries. They're just not having a lot of luck. In-N-Out is just saying, "Here, these fries suck, and you will eat them." That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Taco Bell is right at the top of my Arby's are really right at the top there.
What should I get at Taco Bell? Because I'm gonna have to try it this week.
Soft Taco Supreme to me is a classic, just a soft taco with sour cream and tomatoes. The problem with Taco Bell is they've taken away all of my favorite menu items over the years. So like double-decker tacos were fantastic. Do you know what those were?
No.
Hard shell taco, soft shell soft tortilla, beans wrapped around a taco. It was fantastic. The Cholito was like a little chili cheese burrito. The Mexi Melt, the authentically named Mexi Melt.
Oh wow.
Was great. They're all gone. Gorditas are gone. But so if I were you, I would get the soft taco supreme. Potato taco is surprisingly good.
Oh, that sounds good.
And that's me. My wife loves the Mexican pizza, which is back. It's not for me, but she loves it.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff that they put on the menu for a couple months. Everyone loves it, and then it disappears. If anyone's interested, by the way, I just looked it up. The Arby's is in Colonial Heights, Virginia, and it's 7,000 square feet.
Wow. It's a lot of shaved beef. Welcome to Film Swap, the podcast where we challenge each other to watch the movies that we've let slip through the cracks or purposely shoved into the cracks for whatever reason. I'm Nick Voll.
And I'm Angelica Thornton, and today we're talking about Demolition Man.
At the end of a century, ravaged by violence, a society of perfect order will arise. Criminals will be frozen and reprogrammed in cryogenic prisons.
The prisoners are ice cubes. Their criminal instincts are being reprogrammed as they sleep.
Aggression and deviant behavior will be totally eliminated.
He's a criminal the likes of which you have never seen. In a bad time, he was the worst.
I'm gonna love running this place.
But in the year 2032...
This morning, Simon Phoenix escaped from this cryo facility. We are, quite frankly, not equipped to deal with the situation.
Amidst a world of peace and calm.
We're police officers. We're not trained for this kind of violence.
How was the fiendish Simon Phoenix apprehended back in the 20th?
In the end, it took just one man, John Spartan.
You mean the Demolition Man?
Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, Demolition Man.
Demolition Man is a 1993 American science fiction action film directed by Marco Brambilla. In his directorial debut, it stars Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, a pre-fame Sandra Bullock. It has Nigel Hawthorne and a turn from Benjamin Bratt before he was lawed and ordered up. Stallone plays John Spartan, a subtly named risk-taking police officer who has a reputation for causing destruction while carrying out his work. After a failed attempt to rescue hostages from an evil crime lord, equally subtly named Simon Phoenix, played by Wesley Snipes, they are both sentenced to be cryogenically frozen in 1996. Phoenix is stalled for a parole hearing in 2032, but escapes. Society has changed quite a bit in that time, and all crime has seemingly been eliminated. Unable to deal with a criminal as dangerous as Phoenix, the authorities waken Spartan to help him capture Simon Phoenix. Some hilarity ensues, some carnage ensues. there's a bizarre subplot, including Dennis Leary, who is effectively playing himself as a rebel leader who lives underground, who rejects the sort of authoritarian rule of the day. This is a very strange movie. It's fun. It's terrible, but it's fun. Angelica, why had you not seen this movie?
I don't know. I mean, I was in college when this was out. This is also not my genre, like an 90s action film. I haven't seen a lot of them. In fact, I looked up Wesley Snipes' filmography because I was like, how have I not seen him in anything? I mean, I've seen him in a couple things, and I haven't seen most of the stuff he's been in because it's just not my thing. So I don't know. I don't even really remember this film. I don't remember anything in college, but I really had fun watching this. How many times have you seen it?
Probably 4 or 5.
4 or 5 times. Okay, that's
like a
good.
classic.
You're committed to this film. And was this Marissa's first time watching it with you?
It was. And this is the classic movie, and like I hadn't seen it in quite a while. I will say that it's like one of those movies that used to come up on cable and I'd watch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then I'll tell this story later, but I saw it on a plane from Europe back home, and there's some interesting changes on that
Right.
version.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So yeah, I've seen it a lot, and I think it's just one of those movies you can pop on and catch part of, and it's okay.
Totally. I was watching it. I'm thinking in the beginning, okay, this is ridiculous. And it just, at first, I guess it sort of struck me as like a comic book action adventure kind of film, like the writing, the acting. I was like, oh, this is like an old cheesy episode of like Batman or something. And then pretty quickly I realized this is a comedy. It is funny. It's bonkers. It's just totally absurd, but the one-liners come at you at this steady pace, which I think makes it enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And you get the sense everybody involved in this movie knew exactly what they were making. There was nobody who thought this was like some sort of high quality action film or serious drama or even commentary on the world, because there's definitely some political commentary going on in this movie, but it's so ham-fisted and stupid, for lack of a better word. I don't think anyone can take it too seriously.
Yeah, they're all in on the joke, and it was great. And it was so steady that at one point I was like, this could be like an AI written film. I know we've been talking a lot about that, but I was like, this is what artificial intelligence would think a good movie would be.
Yeah, it's
But
funny.
that's so 90s, right? To think that way. I mean, it was very 90s.
It was produced by Joel Silver, which tells you a lot right there if you know much about his movies. He just crap after crap after crap, and I feel like something like this almost works in spite of his touch. You know what I mean? If you look at like the Batman stuff he did in the 90s, it was going for this kind of tone, and those movies to me failed miserably, but this one worked because it's sort of free of the expectations you would have of a Batman movie.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fun movie.
You can't go into it like intellectually. You can't go into it expecting anything, really.
No.
And just sit back and relax and enjoy it, which is, I would say, applies to almost most of Sylvester Stallone's films. I mean,
well, I was going to ask you, do you like Sylvester Stallone generally?
I need to do like a Sylvester Stallone weekend where I watch a lot of his stuff, because I like, several of the Rocky films, but I haven't watched a lot of his stuff since I was a kid. Like, I mean, I don't remember Rambo. I don't remember most of his stuff.
Yeah, I've never seen the Rambo movies at all because they came out when I was a little kid, and
Yeah.
I don't particularly like Sylvester Stallone as an actor or as a person, frankly.
Yeah.
So like I've seen Rocky, and it's a great movie. It's a classic for a reason. And I've seen this one, and I've seen a couple others.
Yeah,
but
I don't know enough about him to, judge. I heard he was great in Creed. I didn't see Creed.
Oh, Creed was really good, yeah. But that's not really to me a Sylvester Stallone
Yeah,
movie.
exactly.
It's
just one
Michael
of his
Jordan
more
movie.
recent roles, right?
Yeah, like Ryan Coogler, I think, directed that, and he's fantastic. So like it didn't have like this patina of macho crap that everything,
which is, it seems like that's all he's capable of. I was asking my husband Bill, like, has he ever broken apart from one of these roles, like a Rocky type role or Rambo, or this role in Demolition Man and done anything different, and I couldn't come up with anything. Not that I've seen.
Not that I've seen either. And
Yeah.
Rocky is his most sensitive movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Rocky
That's
actually
why
has
it's good.
some emotions and something
Yeah.
going on, you know. But yeah, so I feel like this movie, if you were not a fan of him, is a perfect entree to it because he's sort of also mocking his own image a little bit with it.
Yes. Yeah. I did read that this was originally written as just like an action film,
Mhm.
and then rewritten by Daniel Waters, who's known for Heathers as a
Okay.
comedy, in a matter of weeks. And that probably, I want to say, saved the film. I mean, I obviously didn't see the original screenplay, but take out the funny lines in this and it would be just really bad.
Yeah, and if you take out the comedy too, the political messaging in it, you know, this sort of anti-liberal, the people in charge are liberal fascists, effectively.
Right.
And then that it's so ham-fisted and heavy-handed without
Yeah.
the humor undercutting that.
Right. Right.
And maybe I see it differently now too, as a person who is experiencing a different kind of actual fascism in our country. Not to get
Yeah.
too deep into politics here, but it's
Yeah,
not
no.
coming from the liberal side of the aisle.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, it's you need the humor to be able to watch this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely an underlining anti-conformist social critique, but it's not enough to carry the film. And at the end of the day, this was just funny to me.
Yes, it was. And Sandra Bullock stole the show.
I know, she was so great. Every time she would screw up one of those catchphrases, those expressions, I'm just like, let's blow this guy. I'm like, I love her. God, no wonder why she turned into a star. She was relatively unknown, right?
Yeah, I think this was like her first big role.
Yeah. She's so cute in it and she's so enthusiastic. First of all, she's perfect for this role and she totally embraced it and she really delivered. I'm not saying she was like, her acting was extraordinary, but she was perfect and so delightful to watch that if you take her out, that's it. I agree. Lori Petty was supposed to play her or did play her, right?
Briefly, like for a couple days.
Yeah, and then got fired because she didn't get along with Sylvester Stallone. She said they were like oil and vinegar. And I can't imagine her in that role.
No, because she just doesn't have like the innocence. She's so Lori Petty's persona is so like sort of cynical, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah, you need somebody who, like Sandra Bullock, can play sort of daffy and fun. And
Yeah,
I just don't see Lori
absolutely.
Petty doing that.
I
at
loved
all.
her. She's so great. And I was watching her, and this is like the youngest she's been on film and just the most innocent. And I'm thinking, not only is she just adorable and, you know, charming, she's gorgeous.
Mhm.
This is why my brother's been in love with her for 30 years. I was thinking as I was watching it, she does not look like any other Hollywood actress.
True.
I mean, not to get on her looks or anything, but we do this. And I was like, it's just like, it's perfect. It was a perfect casting move.
She looks like a real pretty woman. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like a woman who's pretty, who you would say in real life is pretty, but is also pretty on screen. Because I feel like a lot of the
Absolutely.
times, and it's true of men as well, but we're talking about women here. There are people on screen, actors who I think look fine on camera, but when you see photos of them, or if you saw them in person, would look kind of freaky.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
I
my
think that's
husband
what
always
it is.
says this is someone's persona or their reputation makes them more attractive. And he always uses this as an example. He says, JFK was an ugly man. If you saw him walking through the grocery store, you would not look twice. And I used to disagree with him. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, he was kind of a weird looking dude. And like that guy, if I saw him at, you know, pickup at school, I would not think, oh, that's a handsome guy.
Mhm.
You know.
Totally. I mean, let's be honest. Same with Jackie Kennedy. I mean,
Yes.
her eyes
Yeah.
are way far apart, and she's not classically beautiful, but we all
Right.
believed her to be because, you know, the aura around them.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, and her comic timing in this movie was fantastic. I mean, the delivery, just pitch perfect delivery. And imagine too, she got thrown into this as production had already started, and they're just knowing how to play it perfectly right off the bat. It's kind of amazing.
Right. I will say that her chemistry with Sylvester Stallone was so confusing to me. And I know they make out at the end, they try to have sex and that whole scene. And I'm like, no, ew. He seemed too old. She seemed too innocent. At one point, the subplot of him finding his daughter, I was convinced that she was going to end up being his daughter. And I was trying to do the math. And I'm like, oh, this is so gross when they're like, he thinks they're going to have real sex and she puts the helmet thing on and they do this weird, I don't even know what you'd call it. What would you call that?
Like virtual sex.
Virtual sex. And then they stop it. I'm thinking, no way that she's going to be his daughter. And then I'm waiting for the daughter plot to happen, and it never happens. And then they have that awkward, no chemistry kiss at the end of the film.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that
he is 20 years older than her in real life, right?
Yeah. It just didn't work.
And yeah, so I think the daughter plot was something that was cut. Well, so there's a few things here. One, why is he was just mourning his wife because in his brain, he just saw her, right? He was cryogenically frozen. So in his head, in his concept of time, he saw his wife last week. You know what I mean? And she's been dead for 20 years. And now he's like, yeah, let's
he's ready. Yeah, he's ready for Huxley. And that's
pretty
crazy.
gross.
Yeah.
And then, they bring up the fact that his daughter is in this world and he doesn't know if she'll be able to accept him. And then they just never return to it.
Yeah. If they're going to cut that out, they need to cut it out entirely.
Yeah.
They should have cut out that scene in the car where he mentions it.
Because all it does is exactly what you said. It
plants that seed, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like that maybe she is his daughter because she's certainly young enough to be his daughter.
Yeah. Maybe they wanted us to feel uncomfortable going into that virtual sex scene. I don't know what the point of that would be. It was just weird. I didn't like that.
So this is a tangent. Remember the scene when he's getting cryogenically frozen, right? And he deserved it too, by the way. I mean, he's obviously like, reckless and all that.
Yeah.
It's funny to me, this movie came out in 93 and they envisioned a future only 3 years in the future where cryogenically freezing people would be punishment. And I don't understand.
All it took was 3 years.
And the whole concept of cryogenically freezing them and then releasing them later where they're the same age, like, how is this punishment exactly?
Yeah.
So they're just going to live longer? They're going to get to see the future?
They should have had the film taking place farther into the future, but I guess the daughter part wouldn't have worked for that. But then they removed it, so it kind of screwed the whole thing up. I mean, I thought several times watching this is what they thought it would be like in less than 40 years. And they kept calling him a prehistoric man. I'm like, dude, it's been like 38 years or something. What the hell is happening?
I love Bob Gunton in this movie, who plays the police captain with the ridiculous glasses.
Yeah.
Just he's on a 10 at all times. You caveman, you savage. And that to me is one of the funnier parts of the whole movie. He just can't stop yelling that at him. And it's hilarious.
He's Warden Norton from Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He plays an imperious asshole so well.
Yeah, it's so good. He
was great in it. But I want to go back to the cryogenically freezing. So like half of this I feel like was just an excuse to show Sylvester Stallone's naked body.
Right.
And I feel at one point there's definitely a shot from below where you see his balls, right?
I almost texted you, did I just see Sly Stallone's nuts? I think we did. I think
I think that was for the ladies.
Yeah.
So here's an opinion I have. I don't know if you knew this, but men, generally speaking, enjoy women's breasts. Right. You're aware of this. You've heard this.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I believe there's no analog for women, right? There's no body part of men that you are like obsessed with seeing and or touching, correct? I mean, outside of the main sex organs.
Listen, I think every ball sack is gross looking. So no, that is never going to happen. Penises are weird. I don't want to see them in movies, but a nice butt works.
Okay.
And I think women like butts, and I sound like Tina from Bob's Burgers. Yeah, I mean, like it would have worked better if we got a nice shot of his ass. Did we?
Yeah, we definitely got some buttocks.
Yeah, because he's turning over in the thing. So they did give us a shot.
Back to my tangent here. I believe balls should be the women's the boobs and balls. They should be the equivalent. Women should obsess over men's balls the way men obsess over women's boobs. I'm thinking like pants where there's like a little cleavage. Ball.
Have you studied your balls, dude?
I mean, at length.
So what about the testes would make you think that I mean, breasts are beautiful.
True. Balls are
Balls
beautiful.
are not.
Oh, I mean, isn't it beauty in the eye of the beholder? I mean, I'm just saying, you know, there's got to be something. It just, as a man, you want to feel beautiful sometimes. That's all I'm saying. And that's an area,
Okay.
you
I'll
know,
give you that.
yeah,
I'll give you that.
just, you know, a woman, you know, guys walking down the street staring at women's chests. Women could like gaze their eyes a little lower. You know what I mean? As men pass by.
We don't enjoy that.
Well, I think that's on you. I think that's
okay. We don't enjoy the men looking here and not up here. So I don't know.
of course.
Maybe you guys should experience that level of what's the word I'm looking for? Harassment?
Like objectification.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying with the balls.
Okay.
You put on a tight pair of shorts. Maybe there's a little window, you know, in there. Just
okay.
Just
all right.
Subtle.
Try it out. Let me know how it works.
We need like a hidden camera show for this to really see how this is going to work. I think you'd probably get arrested, but that's another story.
Okay. So that was a good tangent.
Yes. So the cryogenically freezing ball shot was for the ladies. And then you got him defrosting where he was in the full fetal position with his 5'4" body or whatever it is. That really shows off how short.
Wait, he's that short?
He's not 5'4", but he's pretty short.
I didn't realize that. He seems tall to me, but so does Tom Cruise until you realize he's short. So
according to the internet, he's 5'10", but there's no way that's true.
No, that's a lie. The internet also says I'm deaf and I have cochlear implants. So
that's right. The internet barely acknowledges I exist. So it's tough to.
I did see an article about your balls on the internet, by the way. So don't cut yourself too short. All right. So why were we so obsessed with cryogenics in the 90s? Isn't this like when the Disney stuff was like a big story?
Ted Williams's head being cryogenically
Yes, I'm surprised neither of those were included in the movies.
Just as
neither references was included in this film.
Well, I think the answer is obvious. Like the idea that science could artificially extend your life and you could see, you know, the future, you know, everyone wants to know, like, I don't know. It seems like a natural human curiosity. What is the world going to be like? Or will medical science advance to the point where you can extend my life permanently once I wake back up? You can do this other treatment to make me live forever. So it makes sense, I guess. I mean, nobody wants to die.
No, I'm just saying, like, why didn't they include like a Disney reference? It was the 90s.
Yeah, maybe you know, it was like a corporate studio thing.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Ted Williams to me seems like the one, although it was just his head, right? So what are you going to do with his head?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if anything, they should have
use his brain, maybe. I don't know. That was the hope. Take his brain and put it into another vessel.
They should have frozen his balls, the part that everyone valued the most. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. That it's an interesting concept. And obviously we're not there yet. I mean, we can freeze the body parts, but then what?
So I don't have enough viewing experience with this movie to be able to quote it, but this to me seems like the most quotable movie ever. Like there's so many lines that I wanted to write down and bring up, but there were too many. I kind of just got overwhelmed.
Yeah, there's a ton of quotable lines in this for sure. All of the things that Sandra Bullock says are great.
Yes.
It's not exactly a line, but something, a reference to come back to all the time is the 3 shells.
Yeah, so what the frick? How do you wipe your ass with 3 iron shells? And they never tell us.
That's the joke. It's great. You have no idea.
What's your theory?
I don't have a theory. I think it's made up and like there's no solution.
Okay. Yeah,
you know,
because you can't.
Because you can't. Maybe at the so you see the tops of the shells, right? Maybe there's like if you lift it up on the bottom, there's like water that sprays out like or something, you know, like you know, the thingy that sprays water up your butt.
Yeah.
Bidet.
Right. Which, listen, I talk about bidets at least once a week, and I try and get everyone to buy a bidet. Do you own a bidet?
No, I've used a bidet. I got my shorts all wet. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with it.
Oh, God. It is life-changing to the point where it might be a problem for you to ever poop without your bidet at home.
Wow.
Like, that's how great it is.
Do you have one that's like kind of like hooked into your toilet to draw the water?
Yeah, and it's like $50, $40, and it is just the best.
Hmm.
Highly recommend Tushy Bidet.
Reminds me of a joke. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
What does an Australian use instead of toilet paper? Bidet,
What?
mate.
I think I've heard this from you before. Have
It's
we
one of my
talked about
favorite
bidets before? We might have. Okay,
Wow.
everyone's going to know I like a really clean ass. So
Oh,
we've
that's
talked
good.
about that again. Yeah, so I didn't understand the seashell thing, but I guess we're not supposed to.
And I like that it was the last line of the whole movie.
No,
Too.
exactly. That's how they wrapped it up.
Like, that's how I mean, that's another reason it was an intentional comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my theory that there's like a bidet sort of thing, and maybe it's like a steps, you like wash it, and then one of them dries it, and one of it scents it or powders
Yeah,
it or something.
totally.
I don't know.
The acting. Okay, I thought Wesley Snipes was great. I mean, he's like the Joker, like just the bad guy who loves to be the bad guy. His lines were great. I mean, totally ridiculous, Jeffrey Dahmer, I love that guy. And you can't take people's rights, or you can't take away people's right to be assholes. That's who you remind me of, an evil Mr. Rogers, like just constant.
Yeah, he's chewed up that scenery. That's for sure. But that's all that he was given to do. So it's not like there was any depth to his character whatsoever.
Well, that's what makes it funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's just a psycho, and he plays it that way.
A psycho who enjoys being a psycho, for sure.
I read that Dennis Rodman liked this movie so much, that's why he started dyeing his hair.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
He wanted to look like Simon Phoenix.
Oh, that's really sad. That says a lot.
Yeah, it kind of does. But, I don't know. It was a popular movie, and he viewed himself as the villain of the NBA, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sylvester Stallone, I thought actually was pretty good. He could tell he was definitely having fun with his own persona a little bit, but at the same time, not too much fun. You know what I mean? He still wanted to be the badass and have the quips, and yeah.
His acting is bad, though. I mean, I agree he set the right tone, but it was just, I don't know. I just think his acting is so bad in this movie.
I think he's only acted well once in his life, and that was in Rocky.
So. I mean, it's like he's just talking loudly, essentially.
The fact that he can't enunciate is a problem as an actor when you have actual lines to deliver.
Yeah.
But he he did the thing. You know what I mean? Like he was what the movie called for. Like
he is the Demolition Man. That is his thing. So he was cast properly. And it doesn't take away from the fun of the movie. The fact that he's not giving us this incredible performance.
Yeah, and it is funny because he is the center. Obviously, he's the main star, but the movie did have a lot of room for the other characters to shine. Benjamin Bratt was fun in this movie. His sort of wide-eyed, innocent pre-nose job. Benjamin Bratt,
love it. Yeah, he was great. I love him.
And his little turn at the end when he was with the rebels and having fun with the rebels. Dennis Leary is the leader of this anti-fascist, anti-society underground, and he doesn't think of himself as a leader, but sometimes people follow me, is what he said.
Yes.
And you could tell he wrote most of his own dialogue because basically it was his stand-up routine from that era anyway that he was famous for on MTV. It was kind of weird. It was funny, but kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I would say it's his stand-up rants that he still does that. I mean, he still goes off on these rants, but because he's playing himself, it's believable. And his acting is pretty good.
Well, it's pretty easy to play yourself.
Exactly.
And it's not like he's given that much to do besides look scruffy and then do his act. So
yeah,
I don't know. But it gets back into this political thing where, Sylvester Stallone goes down to the underground and eats a rat burger and drinks a beer. And I'm like, well, where's the beer? Are they brewing the beer underground? Because
how do they still have beer if it hasn't? Yeah, exactly.
They're starving, but they have beer. None of it makes a lot of sense. It was fun though. I mean, it was kind of like this is very it reminded me of it's like a Broadway play where you have ragamuffins, like those outfits were
Yeah.
just so stylized and ridiculous. It was like,
It's a hard knock life. Yeah.
yeah, they were cosplaying Mad Max basically down there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I
like,
I would have liked to see a little more of that. I thought that was a fun part of the movie, and like seeing more of how they still live like in the olden times, the prehistoric times would have been fun.
yeah, I can see that for sure. But that's a longer movie, and then that's less Sylvester
And I love Sandra Bullock's obsession with the 20th century. I thought that was cute.
and there's some realism to that too. You think about like those people who collect 50s things or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that's about the distance, right? It was 50 years.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes tracks a little bit. I'd like to talk too about Taco Bell.
Right.
Is this the most egregious product placement of all time?
Yeah, I thought it's hilarious that there would be fast food wars and Taco Bell, and you get into the story about how they changed it.
Well, so okay, well, yeah, let's start at the beginning, I guess. They approached Taco Bell was not their first choice. So like basically it sounds like everybody else said no. We don't want to be in this weird movie of yours. McDonald's.
Dumb move.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how bad or good the movie is. You're at the center, and in this movie, your food is portrayed as like the best. And it's kind of a joke for modern day audiences. Oh, Taco Bell's not the best. But in the movie, very seriously, it was like fine dining. Like, how does this portray you negatively? It's like, and so Taco Bell is the fine dining. It's all the food. All the restaurants are Taco Bell. So when I a few years ago was flying home from England, or from the UK somewhere, want to watch a movie. Demolition Man was on the in-flight list of movies, so I watched it. And we get to the point where they start to talk about Taco Bell, and all of a sudden, instead of the word Taco Bell, they say Pizza Hut. I'm like, Pizza Hut? Like, this is not what they say, right? So they're talking about, oh yes, and then like you can see the mouths moving, Taco Bell, but the words are Pizza Hut. And so they get to Taco Bell, and the sign says Taco Bell, and everyone keeps calling it Pizza Hut. And I was so confused. And it turns out in Europe, Taco Bell is not really a thing. Yum Brands owns Taco Bell and Pizza Hut, so they just subbed in Pizza Hut for the European audience, and I got to see that, and it's crazy.
So they didn't even change the signs in post-production?
Mm-mm.
Huh. Interesting.
Didn't care. But I mean, it's only like a quick pan over the sign. Maybe they just thought it wasn't worth it.
I love that Taco Bell is self-deprecating enough as a company, and you see this in their ads, that they're like, sure, let's do it. And it was a really smart marketing move.
Right? And
Yeah,
in the tie-ins in person, I'm sure that they had all kinds of tie-ins at their restaurants. I would have loved to have gone to like a special Taco Bell fancy meal, because you remember when they go and they're served these miniature teeny tiny little tacos with like corn on it and stuff like that. Be kind of a fun little thing to go do. Although they said there's no more salt because it's bad for you. But I can't.
Yeah, Taco Bell should open an elevated restaurant. That would be a good spin-off chain.
Well, they do the Taco Bell Cantina. That's a real thing.
Oh, really?
They serve alcohol there.
What? Where?
There are several locations all over the world, I guess. I mean, I think they're still kind of piloting. I'll look this up.
How do you know all this? Okay, I'm looking it up.
I'm a vacuum for information. I take it in. They have let's see. I'm gonna type in Portland, Oregon in their website. There are no cantinas near Portland, Oregon. Let's go to
There's one in Vegas.
That makes sense. There's
there's a change.org petition. Bring a Taco Bell cantina to Portland, Oregon.
There you go.
I'm going to forward it to you. Let's sign it.
Yeah, it looks like, oh man.
Only 157 people have signed it, so we need to act now.
I was very recently in Vegas for work, and this Vegas one is only like 2 blocks, Vegas block, so it's still probably half a mile, but from where I stayed, I should have gone. That would have been kind of amazing to go get lunch at the Taco Bell Cantina. And I'm curious, is the food better? I mean, right? Or is the food all the same?
One of the commenters here says, this is great. This is ridiculous. I believe all Americans deserve equal access to the Taco Bell Berry Froze Twisted Freeze, as it was written by our forebears. We are endowed by our creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of frozen alcoholic beverages provided by our favorite local Mexican fast food franchise. Thank you, and God bless America.
That's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Beautiful. I would go to lunch at a Taco Bell cantina.
For
Have a
sure.
little more elevated. Take a
For
business
sure.
lunch there. Sure.
Yeah.
All
right. What haven't we talked about here?
That's a fine question.
So another bit of trivia. They talk about Schwarzenegger being the president, and there was a constitutional amendment to make him the president, which is kind of funny. And I guess on the 10 years after this film was released, he became almost to the day he became governor of California.
And I'd read too that there was some sort of Republican legislation to make an exception for him to be able to run for president, and it didn't fly.
Huh, interesting.
But,
so that's like an example of, this film now has a cult following, and people talk about how it's like predictive programming, right?
Yeah, and there were some things that, like I saw at one point the Bob Gunton's character, the police sergeant with the glasses, was carrying around effectively an iPad that he was looking at stuff on. That's,
yeah,
predictive.
sure.
Like 15 years before that was reality, effectively. Trying to remember if there's anything else in there that really struck me as something that existed. Well, the surveillance state sort of they have now, there are Ring cameras everywhere. Remember there's the scene where Nigel Hawthorne's character, what's his face, is confronted by Simon Phoenix outside of the art museum or the museum.
That's right.
And later John Spartan is able to go back and see them talking to know that they're in cahoots. Just this idea that there's cameras everywhere.
Right. The anti-cursing culture was interesting too. I mean, I wouldn't survive a day, obviously. I try not to swear too much on this podcast like I do in real life, but it's one of my favorite things, along with alcohol, meat, sex, swearing. All the things that are illegal in this world are truly the best things.
Well, and I don't understand though, like what this movie is trying to fight is like PC culture. Essentially, it seems like people who are into PC culture or whatever you want to call it, they still like to eat tasty food. They still like to swear. Like I don't understand.
There's a gray area in their brains, but this basically tells us that, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to articulate a point.
It's like a mishmash of PC thoughts, right? And also religious fundamentalism. And those two, that's like combining oil and water. Like those things aren't going to go together. So it's not, PC people who are saying don't swear. It's religious people, right? Who that offends their sensibilities or whatever. So it's kind of a weird, I feel like part of the message of the movie there, when we talked about the politics, gets sort of lost because it's like a straw man argument. Effectively, you're creating something that doesn't really exist. These kind of are competing thoughts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it was the fear back in 1993, I guess.
Yeah. The not being able to use certain words to describe people might lead to other limitations. Yeah.
Right.
And I guess too, it is hard sometimes in retrospect to judge works of art, the commentary of works of art based on, our current
political climate.
Values.
Yeah. I mean, this is when we were all fighting, arguing, over Tipper Gore's, campaign on explicit lyrics and, artistic expression and freedom of speech. And I feel like the early 90s was when Democrats and Republicans were just both flipping out over, protecting the children from everything.
Which is an interesting thing too, because you think about how the difference between our childhoods and kids today. So when you were a kid, how much did you just spend time on your own, rambling around doing kid stuff? And how kids today don't do that like they used to. And how much of this is driven by fear of things that aren't worth being afraid of. And, some of that stems from that era, right? I mean, protecting kids from everything, including life. That's an interesting concept to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were, just the difference between like your parenting, for example, like what you do with August. He's 5. He probably is never without a parent, right?
Not really, no. But I feel like he's still young enough where he kind of needs that. But
Yeah.
I mean, he
He
goes outside and
does.
plays by
He
himself.
definitely does. Like, he shouldn't be roaming around the streets as a 5-year-old on his own. I was. And part of it's because I had older cousins and an older brother, but I remember going as far as a mile away from home with my cousins and my brother and kids on the street. We were like a street gang. And like, our parents did not care that kindergartners were just out there like animals running around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing. Like, geez, bad shit could have happened to us.
Yeah.
And we did get into some trouble, but
I picture you like straight out of Newsies with one of those little hats and a canvas vest, and
like the kids in the alley in A Christmas Story where they're beating the crap out of each other and chasing each other around.
yeah.
I
You
mean,
were
it
Scott
was more
Farkas.
like that than it is now.
Yeah,
If I
no,
saw a 5-year-old running outside my house like that, I would be like, where are your parents? Do you need help?
yeah,
Back
you'd
then, it
go
was
out.
totally normal. Yeah.
My son's by himself sometimes, sort of in the backyard and the driveway where
Yeah,
when he's
yeah.
playing with the neighbor kids, but that's about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and they don't leave the driveway or the backyard.
Yeah. They know
So,
not to.
I mean, I'm just saying there's like swings here, right? And I feel
For
like
sure.
this whole era of protective parenting has some negative effects as well. And I think some of it stems from like, social media and phones and all that's different now, obviously. But some of it too comes from the expansion of local television news, and me and you to extent are complicit in that a little bit, because there's more news shows, so we talk more about kidnappings, we talk more about sexual abuse, things that we should be talking about but were happening before as well, and it makes it seem like now it's more prevalent, and it's not. It's just more reported on. Oh man, Sylvester Stallone apparently wanted Jackie Chan to play the role of Simon Phoenix, but Chan turned it down because he didn't want to play a villain.
Oh, that's so Jackie Chan of him, isn't it?
Well, then this is also pre Jackie Chan's real ascension into Hollywood. He had come in earlier and had a movie that failed. He was still like the king of Hong Kong,
Yeah.
but hadn't, made his mark. I think it was, what was it? The movie made with Chris Tucker, Rush Hour, that sort of
Yeah.
sprung him onto American audiences. He could barely speak English, and I think he still can not speak English very well. So I think that was another impediment.
Yeah. I don't think Jackie Chan would have worked in this role.
He's so lovable. Like,
yeah.
Wesley Snipes can look evil when he wants to, and I
Yeah.
don't think Jackie Chan can do that.
But also super hot. I forgot how good looking he was when
Wesley
he was
Snipes?
younger. He still looks good. I mean, he still looks great, but man, he was a good looking dude when he was young.
All right. You like the blonde hair?
I just think, he's handsome. He's got great bone structure. And even when he was just has that evil look in his eyes, I was like, oof. Yeah, he's good. I think they cast him correctly.
So you
It's
would have
perfect.
preferred if instead of Sylvester Stallone's nude body in the cryogenic freezer we saw.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wesley's.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Well, I think we both know why they didn't do that. He wasn't the star, and he was, so this was Sylvester Stallone's movie. He can't be
Yeah,
upstaged.
Yeah. No one wants to see the bad guy's nuts, I guess.
And there's some racial things I'm sure involved there too, with a naked, black actor. And
Well,
stuff.
I saw some criticism that that they cast the villain, a black man as the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the bad guys, were minorities in the film. I didn't really notice that while watching it. And I didn't see that as a glaring problem.
Well, one of the bad guys was Jesse Ventura.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, well, that was another weird thing about the movie, and something you can tell they cut, because you remember he made the big thing about, I'm going to need some of my friends to come help me. That's a terrible Wesley Snipes impression. But and then they defrost like 5 guys. We see them, they briefly do some dirt, and then they just disappear. Because at the end of the movie, right, it's John Spartan freezing and beheading Simon Phoenix.
Oh
and where did the other
God, that
guys
scene
go?
was crazy too. It was so hilarious.
But I guess maybe those guys, because they're not to the level of villain that Phoenix is, the regular police can handle them or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seemed weird that they would go to this big trouble to introduce these guys. They don't really fight. You just kind of see them, and that's
Yeah,
it.
another subplot that doesn't pan out in the film.
Yeah, exactly. And you had somebody like Jesse Ventura, who is recognizable. He was famous then. This is pre-Governor Ventura, obviously. But
give him a little more time. Why not?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. I guess it was a big fight scene between Jesse Ventura and Sylvester Stallone that got cut. So maybe that's kind of where it was.
So this was an editing problem somewhat. Yeah.
Some fun little factoids about this movie. Jack Black was in this movie very briefly. He was one of the scrubby underground dwellers, and there's a scene where right before Leary launches into his big monologue about red meat and smoking and whatever it is he talks about, Jack Black is one of the dudes with him, just young, super young.
Oh wow,
Jack Black.
Okay.
Doing that, and then there was a couple of other. I think I'm trying to find it.
Now I have all these Where's Waldo things to look for the next time I watch the film.
I rewatched it, and it's just of the barest flash of him. You have to really be looking, because I didn't see it the first time I watched it, and then I read back and saw him, and I think there's somebody else famous in this as well. But oh yeah, Dan Cortez, if you caught him, do you remember him? That's like peak 90s right there.
Yep.
Dan Cortez, if for the uninitiated, was a MTV celebrity who was in their Rock and Jock. Didn't he start on like the Real World as a Real World contestant?
Yeah, I want to say he was in a couple different reality shows.
And then he became a D-list actor for a while. Rob Schneider has a very small role, although a very memorable role, as the guy who teases Stallone about the 3 shells.
Yeah, and his Schneider laugh was just so irritating.
Well, that's his shtick, right? I mean,
right.
He probably, I'm guessing he befriended Sylvester Stallone on that one, because he also played his sidekick later in Judge Dredd, which is a very bad Sylvester Stallone movie.
I haven't seen that one.
It was kind of going for sort of the same tone as this one, but it stunk. The remake they did a few years later with Carl Urban called Dredd was much, much better.
I'm looking at the Dan Cortez filmography, and it's a lot of random stuff. Host, playing himself, small roles in films.
He was in Seinfeld.
Right. I want to say he's aged well too. Good for
you.
you.
I mean, you can go a long way if you're a handsome man, right? And you get the right opportunities.
Yep.
Do we have anything else to say? Well, first off, would you recommend this movie to anyone? And did you watch it with your boys? Because you had talked about that.
I didn't have time, but I will watch it again with them after screening it. I think it's totally fine for both kids. I mean, they're swearing, but they hear swearing all the time. I think it would be fun to watch with them. I think that they would understand the humor behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would appreciate the explosions and the fight scenes and everything else. It's fun. The pace is fun. I think it was really enjoyable. If you understand it and you go into it with no expectations, yes.
Yeah. And there's a quick flash of boobs, so they'll like that. The right age for that. That was such a blatant attempt to toss in some boobs for no reason. But I guess it's fair. Turnabout is fair play, right? We got a nut shot. We got some boob shots. A boob shot.
Boob shots. Which ones are you talking about?
Well, the one where the lady calls on the video phone. It's just one. It's just one.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm sorry, wrong number.
That was so random, by the way.
I think literally they're like, we got to get boobs in here somewhere. Sandy's not going to show them. What are we going to do? That's my executive. God. The executive talking. So would you recommend this movie to someone?
100%. Yes. Please don't take yourself too seriously and get mad. It's fun just to watch it.
There you go. So speaking of serious, next week.
Yes, we're watching Brokeback Mountain, which you haven't seen. It's been 18 years? I think it was a 2005 release.
Wow.
2005.
Given the subject matter, are there any shots of testicles?
No, I don't think so.
It's a mistake. That's why that film didn't win the Oscar.
I mean, it was tough enough with the scenes that you will see. I can't imagine them going farther than that.
Mm-hmm.
I really love this film. I think it's beautiful, and I can't wait for you and Marissa to watch it.
Yeah, she's excited to watch it, as am I. It's a movie that we just didn't see for whatever reason during that season. I remember that year I did see Crash, which was unfortunate, because I think it's just an awful movie. But I remember
one of the biggest Oscar snubs of all time, in my opinion.
I had just started working overnights then, and so I was not seeing a lot of movies just because, you know, my schedule was all crazy. And so I think that's part of the reason I didn't see it. So I am looking forward to seeing it now. And I think Gyllenhaal and Ledger are both great actors. So I think I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you'll like it. Let's end it with the best exchange in Demolition Man, in my opinion. When he says, "Be well."
He says, "Be fucked."
Yes. I'm never, ever not going to respond, "Be fucked," to someone saying "be well" again for the rest of my life.
Don't you want to just say that to anyone who would say the phrase "be well"? Like, such a insipid phrase to say.
They definitely deserve a "be fucked" in response. Just like people who sign their emails "best," comma. Please stop doing that.
Best.
Be fucked.
Yeah. See you next week, Angelica. Be fucked.
See you, Nick.
Film Swap is produced and hosted by Angelica, Thornton, and Nick Voll. You can watch or listen on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Follow Angelica on Twitter at Angelica, KATU, and follow Nick at Nick Voll. Share your thoughts on the films we discussed there, and we might just read them on the show. Music by John Michael Farley and Nick Voll.